Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks, and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Hi, thanks Carly McCracken, and welcome everybody to another edition of In the Spotlight. My first guest this week is Karina Kantas, who I think just hung up on us. Hello? Karina, are you there? She was there and she vanished. Let me see if I can get her back. Technical problems on every bloody episode, I swear. Ringing Karina. I don't know what happened, but you disconnected. We're back. Okay.
We're back, and there's no feedback. I can hear you perfectly. Oh, I can see you as well.
Yeah, I just cut the camera off. Okay. Okay. Karina, let me introduce you to the audience now that I've got you back on. Karina Kantas is the author of the popular MC thriller series Outlaw and the loved romantic fantasy duology Illusional Reality. She also writes short stories, and when her imagination is working overtime, she writes thought-provoking dark flash fiction. There are many layers to Karina's writing style, and her voice, as you will see in her flash fiction collection Heads and Tails, that's Tales, and in Undressed, she opens up more to her fans, giving them another glimpse into her warped mind. She's a prolific author with 11 titles in most fiction genres. She has 2 new books out. One is a dystopian erotica, which she doesn't think will fit into my show, but gee whiz, everything fits in, Karina. And the other is The Quest, Book 2 of a PNR romantic fantasy duology, but also a standalone. She'd also like to mention her business Author Assist, which I'll ask her about, and she will read to us later a passage from The Quest. The first thing I'd like to ask you is, you said you're the author of the popular MC thriller series. What the heck is MC?
MC stands for Motorcycle Club. If you think of the outlaw motorcycle clubs like Hells Angels, which I'm sure everyone knows the name, these are novels, they're romances, they're thrillers about basically a girl walking into one of their clubhouses and getting with one of the bikers there, and things get heavy and things get violent, but it's a lot of them, they do romance, some of them do erotica. I think of mine, even though they have romance in mine, I think mine are more of a thriller, because I sort of delve more into the goings on behind an outlaw motorcycle club.
And then you said Book 2 of a PNR romantic fantasy. Okay, what the heck is PNR?
Okay, PNR is paranormal romance.
Oh.
A lot of people think of it as vampires and wolves, but it's not. It's paranormal is anything to do with the supernatural and to do with magic and spells. That's all to do with paranormal. And my book has no vampires, goblins, wolves, elves. It has nothing like that in my story, but it's still classed I still class it as a paranormal romance fantasy.
My next question is, Are you talking to us from England or have you come over from England? You definitely got British speech.
I am from the UK, Midlands originally, but I live in Greece on the island of Corfu. I've lived here most of my life now.
Greece, the island of Corso. What
Corfu.
made you move there?
I was with a guy for 5 years and we broke up and we had a holiday booked to the Bahamas and there was no way I was losing my money from that. So the money that he paid back for the holiday that I lost, I took my sister. We went to Greece, which is our first time on a plane, and I met my now husband.
Ah. So you live over there now and you're married to your husband and he's Greek?
Yeah.
He's Greek?
He's Greek, yeah. I met him in a cocktail bar in a tourist resort. The first thing I asked, he asked me what I wanted, and I asked for an orgasm. I'd always wanted to try one of those cocktails. He asked how many. I said multiple. And it went on from there. My sister had a wonderful holiday. We were there 2 weeks. I went back home, quit my job, came back over. It hasn't been easy over the last 27 years now. But I'm very, very happy here with my husband and my 2 daughters.
And orgasm is the name of a cocktail?
You've never had an orgasm? Oh my gosh, it's so nice.
Well, I've had real orgasms, but not cocktail ones.
No, it's really nice. It's rum and milk and coconut.
Ah, well, rum is too sweet for me. I'm a Scotch drinker. I don't like sweet cocktails at all. I like straight Scotch, preferably Dewar's.
I am the same with you. I'm more of a bourbon person myself. I like my Southern Comfort neat with a bit of ice.
Uh-huh. I don't even like ice in my Scotch. I just like
You're not going to water it down.
Absolutely neat, absolutely straight, absolutely plain, with nothing to adulterate it. Well, tell us what your business Author Assist is. What is that?
Author Assist is an a la carte menu of author services that I provide for established and independent authors. It starts everything from promoting, marketing, book trailers, narration. I haven't got my list on me now, so I have to remember everything. Brainstorming sessions, advertising on Amazon and Facebook, help with teasers and promotion. I basically do everything. There's a whole menu where people can they don't have to pick a package and pay a monthly price. They can pick what they need help with. My prices haven't changed for 2 years now. I try and keep them as low as I can because as an independent author myself, I know how difficult and how costly it is to be published and to get your work out there. And that's the whole reason why I started Author Assist, is I wanted to give back what I'd learned myself over 27 years. I don't just do the services for my clients, I teach them how to do it themselves. If they want to come back and they ask and they hire me again, then brilliant. But I would rather them save that money because they've learned how to do that skill themselves, and so they won't have to hire anyone again. So that's what Author Assist is all about.
Good. You're generous and you're thoughtful and you're not a rip-off artist.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, if they ask for something and I can't do it, I'll find someone else who can. I won't take their money if I can't provide the service.
Well, now you say you've been in the industry for over 25 years and you've seen the changes. Would you like to tell us what changes you've seen and whether you think they're for better or for worse?
Oh, I'm going to get crucified here now by all the authors. Okay, when I first started out, there was no such thing as Kindle. Everything was paperback. When I when I first published, it was with a vanity publisher, which I got burnt by. You do learn your lessons. So basically, I had to buy my own copies of my books and try and sell them myself, which wasn't an easy thing to do. But I actually sold probably more paperbacks in that time than I have done in Kindle since. Which I know it sounds strange, but that's how it happened. When Kindle came out, when Amazon, I won't say made the mistake because it's brilliant what they've done, but when Amazon brought out the ebook and Kindle device, it allowed people that had always wanted to write a novel. The problem was it was bad. And it was so bad, the writing, so bad the editing, so bad the cover, everything about it was negative, that it then gave professional authors that were taking this profession seriously a very bad name. And so independent authors got a really bad reputation because of authors that just didn't want to make an effort and to publish their book correctly. Since then, I mean, we're getting thousands and thousands of new books coming out every week on Amazon because of them allowing anybody to be able to write a book, which is great because some of the work that I've read has been amazing. And if it weren't for ebooks and Amazon, they would never have published their books. But unfortunately, there's the other side of it as well. We are fighting back. Independent authors are fighting back, and we are getting a better reputation now. But there are still so many dodgy books out there. And is what's happened in the industry in the last 27 years better? Yes, and then no.
Well, you are both an indie author and a contracted author. How do you decide which of your books you're going to self-publish and which of your books you're giving to a publishing house?
Well, I gave up submitting my manuscripts to agents and publishers nearly 20 odd years ago. I gave up doing that. I was fed up with all the excuses and all the rejection letters, and I thought I'll do it myself. So I started off publishing and self-publishing, and all my novels were self-published until I had a publisher say to me, I would like to take on your 2-book fantasy duology, Illusion or Reality. And the reason I said yes to this is because when you think about a publisher taking on an independent book already, you're paying a third party, and you're going to get less royalties because you're splitting your whatever you were going to make. Okay, with a publisher, whether it's one of the big 5-0s or whatever, you're still doing all the marketing, promoting yourselves. It doesn't matter if you're published by one of the big 5. You're still promoting your own book. So with a publisher, I'm still doing exactly the same work as I would be as an independent author. So you're probably saying, well, why do it? Now, the reason I'm doing it is for the simple reason I live in Greece. And unfortunately, Greece is blacklisted, as in some other countries, for doing audiobooks. I'm a narrator myself. I cannot go on to ACX and narrate somebody's book because I live in Greece. I cannot get any of my 11 novels put into audiobook because I live in Greece. And that is one of the major reasons I said yes to this publisher. She's from the UK as well, which means she can then get my publications into bookstores, which I don't have a chance of doing because I live in this little Greek village on an island in Greece. So that's one of the reasons why I took the publishing contract with this publisher, and I allowed them to have the Illusion or Reality duology.
And why is Greece blacklisted?
I think it's not just Greece. I think ACX has a lot of, I say blacklisted. ACX has a lot of countries they won't work with. I think it's all to do with tax reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, I contacted them. They said, oh, this will change. And this is like 5 years ago and nothing's changed. But because she's in the UK, she can actually do the audiobook for me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Now tell us more about your books. First of all, they can be acquired at books2, that's the number 2, read.com /AP/8 capital Z capital K lowercase w capital E lowercase j /Karina dash Kantas. That's Kantas. That's a lot for any listener to write down.
Okay. There's an easy way of doing this. All my books are available on Amazon, and the reason I have them on books.com, books2read.com, sorry, is because it gives the reader an opportunity not to be pushed and forced into buying an Amazon ebook, but to have the choice of iBooks, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, Nook. It has maybe 24 other outlets where my book is sold. So this person can go to that one page and have the choice of where they want to buy the ebook, and they don't have to be forced to buy it from Amazon. But all my books are on Amazon. And if you go, an easy way to do it is if you go to my private page, which is Karina Kantas on Facebook, click on the banner. All of the links to all of my books, all of my social media, all of everything that they need is on that banner. It's connected to that banner.
Well, now, you've got some special offers going now, right? Lawless Justice is free on Kindle Unlimited in Times of Violence, which is a romance. YA is young adult. MC is motorcycle club. Romance. Heads and Tails, TALES, a collection of stories, is $1.20 with a prize giveaway on your Facebook author page. Is that correct?
That's all correct. Yes, I have a few things going at the moment. Lawless Justice is the third book in the Outlaw series. It's a standalone, and it's about a group of vigilante biker women. They lead double lives. That's on KU, so anyone with Kindle Unlimited can go on to Amazon, look up Lawless Justice, and they can download it for free. Then, In Times of Violence, which is actually the first book I ever published, is up for 99 cents at the moment. Again, you can get that from Amazon, and if you go on to books2read.com, you can find all the links for that there. Heads and Tails, which is a collection of all different short stories and flash fiction of all genres, all writing styles. That's priced, I think, at $110 at the moment, and you'll also be entered into a contest to win a fabulous keyring.
And a fabulous keyring. I've never seen a keyring that I would call fabulous. What makes this one fabulous?
It's gorgeous. It has a feather on it. It has the what's that? Dream catcher. That's it. A feather, a dream catcher. Has so many special good luck icons on it, which makes it a fabulous keyring.
Okay.
There's a picture of it on my Facebook page, Karina Kantas, or if you want to type Explosive Writer, which is the name of my page, it will come up, and you'll see a keyring. You'll see the picture of the keyring and all the other special offers. I do something nearly every month with my books. I always give something away.
Good. Now tell us more about your books. You write for young people and for typical adults as well.
Yeah. I don't know why I write so many different genres. I can't help myself. I love The Outsiders by Essie Hinton, which is why the Outlaw series started with In Times of Violence, which is a bit like the Outsiders on motorcycles. That's the whole reason I wrote that book. Huntress, which wasn't ever going to be a sequel to In Times of Violence, is a sequel, and that was demanded by my readers, so I had to do that. But it still stands as a standalone. Lawless Justice, as I said, was a vigilante thriller of biker women, which is very, very cool, very different. Guaranteed not read anything like that before. It's violent, of course. It's to do with motorcycle clubs, outlaw ones. Then you had Road Rage, which is probably one of the most violent ones, but it still has romance in it, and it's still lots of action and a great book to read. That's the Outlaw series. Then you have Heads and Tails and Undressed, which is 2 collections of my mixture of short stories, flash fiction. There's poetry, there's prose, there's everything in those books. Stone Cold, which is a young adult supernatural thriller, which is based a lot about, quite biographical, apart from supernatural parts. I didn't murder anybody either, but in the book I do, and it was nice. So Stone Cold, that's on offer as well now. That's only $120, I think. What else we got? We got the duology, of course, Illusional Reality, which is the first book, and then The Quest, which is the second book. It's a 2-book duology. They're both out, so you're not going to have any cliffhangers. You can read straight through to see what's going to happen. And then we have my last publication, which is Toxic, which is 2 totally different genres I've just dipped myself into, which is dystopian and erotica. And it works really, really well together.
Good. Now, are you a biker yourself?
I was. Unfortunately, I only ride a little scooter at the moment for health reasons. But I've never been in an MC. But I've always been around MCs. Hell's Angels was part of my my mum's life, let's say. So yeah, I've always been around that club life, but never been part of it. And I had a motorbike as well before I could ride one. Its name was Raven, and it was a I can't even remember what kind of bike I had, and that's shameful. No. It was a 250. Oh, there's a picture of it on my page anyway. She was beautiful, Raven, yeah. Very sad when I had to sell her.
Why do you write so much violence?
Nightmares. Most of my stories and ideas come from nightmares. That's and sadly, I mean, what I write about, you can't write chocolates and candy floss and love hearts. That doesn't happen in outlaw motorcycle clubs. You know, I'd be truthful. I'm truthful with what goes on. I'm truthful with the way the life is. And so, yeah, it is violent, but it's, of course, it's a book, so it's got to be entertaining as well.
But you're not a violent person yourself by nature.
Oh, gosh, no. Oh, my gosh. I'm as good as, I mean, you crossed me the wrong way. Who knows what would come out? But no, I'm a really good person. That's my alter ego. In my books, I become that other person, but I would never be in my life become that.
Do you want to read us that passage from Quest you promised us?
Sure, I'm going to read from The Quest. If I just read the blurb, because it's a tiny little passage, only 1 page, as you said, sure, and people might get lost. So if I read the blurb quickly so they understand what's going on. This is book 2 of Illusional Reality. The quest for the truth begins. When Hattie notices the Ticinian crystal glowing, she knows she must stick to her word and return to her homeland, Ticinia. Knowing that her kinsman needed her, there's no hesitation, even though there's more to lose than just her life. Once more, a prophecy was given that informed the reader of oracles that only Thaya could stop the war and not only save her people, but the whole of Newmac from Kovon's psychotic future plans. Along with 3 of the companions, Thaya is sent on a perilous quest to locate a dark crystal, which holds evil known as the Dark Force. The group are tried and tested throughout their journey. A monster's death and courage, new friendships are formed, and others lost. Thaya's power becomes stronger and a second wheel threatens to take over her mind, body and soul. A terrifying surprise awaits them in the city of Helcon. Will they survive? Will Thaya return to Dicinia? And will there be a final showdown with Kovon? My light is so bad I could hardly read the back of my book then. So okay, so this is a quick excerpt from the book.
Go ahead.
We are concealed within the caves of Keldon upon the outlands. The Chanlings remain with us. We dare not venture into our city. Hattie took a quivering breath. Were there many losses? We were forewarned of Kovon's attack by an oracle. We were as prepared as possible. Even so, Kovon attacked Dicinia with an army belonging to a race we'd never yet sighted, and they possessed strength far greater than our own, and we could not contend. There were many, too many. Even with the employment of our gifts, we were outnumbered and so fled. 21 fell, 3 of the council. Hattie stopped walking and stared at Salco as she imagined what life must have been like for her gentle kinsman. Then she started again at a quicker pace. Words would not come, but one thing she knew, she needed to get back to Dicinia as soon as possible. She was the protector of their land and she should never have left. They were her kinsmen. Dicinia was her homeland. Oh, how the gentlefolk had suffered. The rest of the journey was spent in silence. They arrived at a road of garages. They were all shut apart from one, where the door was ajar. Salco slid through the door and Hattie followed him inside. A shimmering bubble of swells and mists awaited them. She had no second thoughts about stepping into the bright light of the orb. Her kinsman needed her. She felt no fear, no apprehension, just a sense of eagerness and a familiar feeling of revenge. There you go.
Thank you very much, Karina Kantas. Again, your books are available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, all of the quests, everything is all available on Amazon.
So all that my listeners have to do is look up Karina Kantas, and that's Karina. Pardon me, let me start over. KarinaKantas, right?
That's it. Karina Kantas on Amazon, or go to my Facebook page, click on the banner, and all the links to all my books are going to be on there.
Well, good. Thank you very much. And I will I just got dinged by somebody, and I'm
Cynthia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
The program is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing at crimsoncloakpublishing.com for a wide variety of fiction, nonfiction, and children and adults, everything except erotic romance. And you can find there. I'll see you at Rainbow Bridge, a book of experiences that people had being visited by the spirits of their departed pets. And I'm about to bring on my next guest, Troy Fohrman. Hold on, and let me get him. Skype, why isn't it working?
Bye, I'm going to go now, yeah?
Okay, yes.
All right, bye, Cynthia. Thank you.
Bye, Karina. Thank you.
Well, hello, Cynthia.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm mostly positive and fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Troy G. Fohrman is a family man with 3 sons. Troy was turned on to writing at a young age and has enjoyed it ever since. After co-founding the company that became Roundtable Publishing with Anthony S. Clark, Troy has collaborated with Anthony on almost 24 entertainment projects, including screenplays, illustrated children's stories, and books, as well as additional literary, digital, and visual media. Troy is a graduate of Northern Illinois University and has multiple publications on platforms used in the production of enzyme immunoassays, organic synthesis, as well as the painless delivery of pharmaceutical and cosmetic products in vivo. Before I get into your book history, tell us a little about what enzyme immunoassays and organic synthesis are.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. This is interesting. I've never done a phone interview before. When I first graduated college, I ended up at a company called Abbott Laboratories, and 22-year-old kid who thought he knew everything landed a leadership role developing the world's first enzyme immunoassay for HIV detection in whole blood. We were successful in product launch in 1996 to market. The product was called Monopoly, and it had a significant decrease on the number of blood-tainted transfusions of HIV that occurred in the United States of America. It was a substantial drop. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head anymore, but it was greater than a 70% reduction. Kind of neat.
Great. Well, now, Troy, you were the founder and original publisher of Roundtable, but you're an author in your own right as well. Writing runs in your family, I know. I know a little about your background. How did you get started writing?
Roundtable is interesting. Myself, when I was writing with another collaborator, his name was Anthony Clark, we were approached by a printing company based out of Waukegan, Illinois, to basically work with them to establish a publishing company. Our assets were one of the first group of books that they took under their wing to start producing and publishing. It was an interesting time, interesting experience. Made some money. It did not make as much money as I had hoped, but sure felt good when people were reading your stories that you had put your time and effort into. As far as how I got into writing, that's kind of an interesting story. I guess I just always enjoyed it. It actually really started to take effect when I was after I had my children. So I had a set of twins a couple decades ago, and when they're infants and they're very young, you just come across other people's stories and you say, "Wow, I could really expand on this or build on this." And it turns out my grandmother had written down some basic story ideas on these little note cards, little index cards that had been passed to me after she left us. And I worked with Anthony to develop those out into real books. He did the illustrations, I did the stories, and obviously through the publishing company, we got them out there. So that's ultimately how I got into it. From there, I got lucky with some screenplays, and I guess the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, now, if I remember the name correctly, Kay Nyland Fohrman. Is that the right name? That was your grandmother?
Yeah, Kay Nyland is what she went by. She was actually a radio personality in the 1940s and 50s, even into the 1960s in the Midwest. She had two programs. One of them was called Family Time with Kay, where she would read children's stories on the radio. So that's, yeah, it's certainly something that was in the blood.
Now, several of your books are retro-style children's books. Why the focus on books that might easily have been written in the 1940s? Do you think there's a new need for an interest in such books? And if so, why do you think that is?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat that. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I apologize.
Several of your books are retro-style children's books. Why the focus on books that might easily have been written in the 1940s? Do you think there is a new need for or an interest in such books? And if so, why do you think that is?
It's funny. There's certainly many of the concepts for the books were written initially back in the 1940s. As far as bringing them out, I mean, it's basically the concept is if you're going to tell a good story, tell something that has meaning, tell something that has a personal connection. And I think, sure, there's a certain segment of the population, including myself, that does enjoy history, that does enjoy, drawing from years past. In fact, these children's stories have a lot of morals and lessons that don't seem to be carried forward in the, today's writing. They're a little less focused on building values, especially family values. So, we did lean heavily on those concepts from, years past.
You don't write just books for kids, though, Troy. You also write novels for adults. Tell us a little about your adult novels.
So there are 3 adult novels. Actually, I wrote the original screenplays with Anthony Clark, and then we had them adapted by a ghostwriter who was very talented. Those 3 books, one of them is for young adults. The other 2 were designed for that tween to teen audience. I guess we just enjoy writing various types of stories that can inspire and draw messages out that people enjoy reading and feeling.
Tell us about the push that you got from the nonprofit called Orphan Children's Fund.
So Orphan Children's Fund was a nonprofit that was established by Dr. Rajan Naidu. It's out of South Africa. It's basically to help with all the orphans they had out there, especially during their long civil war. We had partnered with them to provide them with proceeds from our book sales. That was actually, that was over 10 years ago. I'm surprised you still remember that. That's pretty impressive. So.
What do your future writing plans involve? More books, more screenplays, something else?
So something else. So I have taken one of these screenplays, books, as you want to call it, in a different direction. We're going to try something interesting and exciting, see if we can get it off the ground. And that's, we've adapted one of the concepts to a stage play. The story is called The Adventures of William Boone. It is one of those comical things in life that we're all descendants of somebody, and sometimes our past history can be very interesting. And sure enough, mine is kind of funny. It is actually a gentleman named William Boone. And William Boone was a real-life brother of Daniel Boone. And the story goes he was one of the authors for the book The Adventures of Daniel Boone, which of course made Daniel Boone famous as a wilderness explorer back in the 1700s. Although the book was actually published in 1800s or early 1800s. I don't remember the entire specifics on it. But anyway, so we kind of flipped it on its head. And if you're familiar with the old movie Goonies, or any of those old movies about children bonding, we've put together a story that combines famous people in a fictitious setting, as children, George Washington as a kid, and Thomas Jefferson as a kid, and Betsy Ross as a child, and they're out looking for gold together. Of course, the core of the story is growing up in the shadow of your sibling's spotlight, because Daniel Boone is already famous amongst kids, and here's his brother William struggling on how to deal with that, that feeling of being a second fiddle. We're very excited. We're currently actively seeking partners to put on the first first adaptation of the stage play, and kind of see if we can build out from there.
So that's gonna be a stage play?
It is going to be a stage play. Yep.
Are you aiming at Broadway or a little lower?
For now, we have to go a little lower. I don't know anybody in Broadway, so we will be attempting our best to find a good partner to build out the first showing, and then take it from there. If it's a success, I'm sure it'll kind of begin to grow organically at that point.
Is there something or someone that particularly inspires your writing?
Originally it was just, taking the stories that my grandmother had initially developed the concepts for, and then it kind of came out as, just enjoyed it and wanted to write about things around me. I think, you're always motivated to create and develop when you have children who are reading it and providing feedback and enjoying it. And then, of course, expand out when others start providing that same feedback, and, friends and family. And then, suddenly it kind of goes from there, like a wind in the sails.
Well, now talk about your children. They write too. Tell us a little about their writing efforts.
Yeah, you are correct. We had two of my children got the bug themselves. One of them wrote a screenplay, a children's book called Sea Mysteries, and we went on to self-publish that. And then the other one wrote his own children's book called Buy U.S. War Bonds, kind of a neat concept. But he even took it further and started writing what-act plays for his school, and actually went to nationals with one of them. So obviously pretty talented, and that's what he's pursuing now in his freshman year at college too, is computer science with an emphasis on entertainment.
Most writers are voracious readers, or at least as voracious as their free time allows for. What is your favorite genre to read?
My favorite genre, I'm still a sci-fi addict. I like anything that shows how we humans are going to evolve, or we're going to be where we're going to be at 1,000 years from now. Space travel, time travel. I like the science aspect of storytelling.
If you hit the lotto and didn't have to work to earn, would you spend most of your time writing?
Definitely. But I'd probably write more patents than creative fiction at that point.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that I haven't asked you?
No, we are still actively searching for folks who are in a position to help us develop the stage play, be it in a school, be it in a theater, be it in for a local organization. It's new, it's interesting, it's exciting. We think we've got a good story written, some interesting characters, and a fantastic business model on how to move forward with the product. So, yeah, if there's any listeners out there that reach out to you and say, hey, I'd love to be involved with that stage play that you were discussing, please pass them on. That would be fantastic.
What are you looking for? Angels who can invest, or people who can get in touch with possible production venues for you, or just what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, people that would want to be involved, that have production venues. Absolutely. It's, it's just a great opportunity to tell a new and unique story that has relevance in a fun and exciting manner.
Well, now, how about reading us a passage from one of your books?
Reading us a passage from one of our books. Well, there's a lot to choose from, and I'd be happy to do so. Give me a second here.
One of the adult ones rather than a children's one, please.
Yeah, probably. Since we've been talking about the adventures of William Boone, that's probably a great place to start. Sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
I know there's nothing worse than a pause on radio, right?
Yeah, dead air, right.
Computer's just a little slow. I don't know why we're suddenly... all right, here we go. I'll be just fine, I said. The canoe, nearly flooded, was drifting over. I'm just going to park the canoe here. I'll meet you at home. Okay, Daniel said, and vanished from view. So in case you hadn't caught it yet, my name is William Boone, and Daniel Boone is my big brother. Yes, the Daniel Boone. See, before long, Daniel would grow up and become a famous explorer, war hero, and highly regarded, well, you get the picture. Daniel would defend settlers against rampaging Indians and help lead the conquest over the untamed lands of the early American frontier. People all over the world would hear about Daniel and repeat their tellings of his amazing adventure. But no one would say that about me. I'm just his little brother. Of course, none of it is my fault. Bad things just always seem to happen to me, like allergies. Seriously, how was I supposed to become a great frontiersman if I was allergic to grass, trees, and, well, even flowers? I sneezed so much, pretty much every time I walked outside in the spring and the fall and, well, even most of the summer. But mostly I just had bad luck. Perfect example, I was walking home that morning from the river. The trail was sticky wet from an early pre-dawn rainstorm, and I came across a particularly muddy spot in the trail. The mud was deep, right up to the puddle. The rock and brush were thick along the trail's edge, so I tried my best to tiptoe around. Across those few inches of space where the grass stopped growing and the mud wasn't that sticky. 3 steps, that is all it took. I took the 3 steps and I could feel something mushy. Then I heard the sticky squish. It was the wrong kind of squish. Yep, now I smelled them. Deer droppings.
Deer droppings. Yuck.
It is yuck, yep. So.
We've got about 8 minutes. Do you want to read a passage from one of your other books?
Actually, love to hear more about how the radio show, your listeners, and how what the feedback is on individuals like me that come on and provide these types of insights and discussions.
You're interviewing me?
Sure. How often does that happen?
Well, I'll tell you the background. The radio show is a product of and was started by Crimson Cloak Publishing, which is one of the publishers that publish my books. And originally the host of the show was Carly McCracken, who has 3 Rugrats. I think 3, 2, I don't know. Anyhow, she has some small kids. And here's a little secret. We broadcast from home. I'm not in a studio with a fancy mic and a control board in front of me. I'm in my office, which is in home. We all broadcast from home. So Carly was broadcasting from home and everything was going along fine. And then along comes summer break. And she could see in the offing summer break was coming. And what was she going to do? Her Rugrats were going to be home. And they were too young to understand and obey. Mommy's going to be doing a radio show for an hour and you have to be quiet. So she cast about for a replacement host for the summer. And I raised my hand. I have done television, as I think you know, Troy. I had 2 different shows, Younger Every Day and Solo Parenting, not at the same time. Solo Parenting came first and Younger Every Day followed. And Carly realized that I would probably be a decent replacement for the summer. So she accepted my raised hand and said, yes, okay, you've got it. So for some 2.5 months or so, this was maybe 2 years ago, I've really lost track, to tell you the truth. I was the host of Crimson. It didn't have a title. It was just called Crimson Cloak Radio. And I said, well, we need a name for the show. And Carly said, well, we don't have one. And I said, well, let's call it In the Spotlight. Well, Carly liked that. So the show became known as In the Spotlight. And she was having a lot of trouble booking guests. She started with inviting all the Crimson Cloak authors to be on the show, but a lot of them had mic fright and didn't want to do it. And she had opened up the show to authors with other publishers. She said she didn't, want to discriminate against authors who weren't with Crimson Cloak. They were still welcome to be on the show. And besides authors, she welcomed entrepreneurs and musicians and other interesting guests. And so when I took over the show, she was still having a lot of trouble booking guests. And when I took over, I just didn't have any trouble booking guests. I started by running ads and notices on Craigslist. And, I don't even remember where all I ran notices. But I ran notices in a variety of places. And I contacted a couple of PR agents who try to get their clients publicized. And, I just really never had any trouble getting guests for the show. I mean, right now I'm booked up into July, and I could be booked further if I wanted to be. And I don't know, the guests just keep coming. Anyhow, in the fall, Carly took the show back, and then came some school holidays, and once again, the kids were home during, I don't remember if it was Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, whatever, Thanksgiving, I guess. And she said to me, Sin, can you do the show again? And I said, sure, I'd love to. So I took on the show, and I took it back a couple of times when she, for one reason or another, a dentist appointment or whatever, couldn't do the show. And finally it wound up that I don't remember if she said to me first, well, would you like to just take it on permanently? Or if I said, well, do you want me to take it on? I don't remember who spoke up first, but I got ownership of the MC spot. It's still Carly's. I mean, Carly still owns the show. It's still Crimson Cloak Radio. They're still the advertisers. They still, it's their show. But I've been hosting it for at least 2 years now, if not longer. And I enjoy it, and I don't have any trouble getting guests, and I occasionally have a problem when a guest doesn't show up or something like that's happened, but getting them to sign up is no issue. Getting them to show up occasionally is, but getting them to sign up isn't. And I enjoy doing it, and she said to me, the day you stop enjoying it, let me know. And I said, okay. But that day hasn't come yet. So I'm still doing the show. Some 2 or maybe 3 years in. And here we go. So you're my latest victim.
Here we are. That's an interesting story. Wow.
Our time is nearly up, Troy. What last words would you like to say?
Well, as always, I guess there's you take the opportunity to plug your products. The books from myself, Troy Fohrman, are available. Pretty much anywhere that you buy your books, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. We actually set up our own website called greatreads.buzz with a local printing company down in Stuart, Florida. So you can always go to greatreads.buzz. If there's any inspiring authors listening, that's always a good website to upload your own titles to, and have a source for low-cost printing as well as electronic downloading. But it's been interesting making the conversion over from publishing to self-publishing. It's certainly a challenge. A lot of noise out there, a lot of content, a lot of books. So we're doing our best to stay, keep above the fray and work ourselves in the spotlight with good books and good stories.
Well, thank you very much, Troy Fohrman, for being my guest on In the Spotlight this week. It's been a pleasure having you, and you're welcome to come back sometime in the future and talk to us some more if you'd like.
Definitely. Thank you for the invite, Cynthia. Have a great day.
Thanks for being here. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to In the Spotlight, brought to you each week by Crimson Cloak Radio, with a wide variety of books for adults and kids. Fiction, nonfiction, everything except erotic romance. And featuring this week, I'll See You at Rainbow Bridge, a collection of stories by pet owners whose pets have passed on to Rainbow Bridge, but whose spirits came back to visit their pet owners and perhaps console them. Well, I'll see you next week. Remember to pass a smile along. Until then, be nice to each other, and I'll see you.
You have been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia McGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests to entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.